Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today we have 3 brand new stories. Let's start with a short and petty one. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Me and my ex. I was married for 7 years to a truly horrible person. Spent us into bankruptcy, cheated on me, you name it. We had 2 sons, and about the time we were just about wrung out financially, she took the boys and ran off with her latest fling. Took pretty much anything she considered valuable and stuck me with most of our debt as well as all the child support she could get. That was a long while back, and I got through it all, did right by my sons, worked my butt off to get on a solid footing financially, and everything is looking pretty good anymore. But she's still a nasty piece of work. She's gone through a few more bankruptcies, screwed around on the next guy, who did the same on her. Our sons know how she is. They grew up with it, and she treated them as bad as she treated anyone else. One of them was going to college and had his appendix nearly burst. She stepped in and told him she was handling all the bills, but a year or so later, he starts getting notices from bill collectors about his hospital bills she supposedly paid. He came to me and we sorted it all out, but it was a mess. My other son thought he was on her car insurance plan and was paying his part until he was hit by some random guy. It was the other guy's fault, but he had to provide proof of insurance as well, but it turns out he had none. His mom had dropped him from her insurance at some point and was spending the money he gave her. He lost his license over that one for a while and still gets worked up about it to this day. There are so many stories, but she isn't my problem anymore, so I go on about my business. But once in a while, every couple years or so, I get a chance at some petty revenge. Like a lot of lowlife, she racks up mountains of debt between bankruptcies and either gives out fake contact info or moves, changes her phone number, etc. It seems there are places online that you can go to and will show you names of people associated with certain people. Like if someone looked up your name, it would show your parents, siblings, spouse, ex-spouses, whoever. Like I said, every couple years or so, someone she owes money to will get my phone number and call asking if I know her, and I give them everything and anything they want. Home address, cell phone, workplace address, and phone, you name it. I know it's petty revenge, but I have to admit, no matter what kind of day I'm having when I get off the phone with those debt collectors, I'm smiling for days. My sons love that story too. Sorry you and your sons had to go through that hell, man. Good job on setting the example for your sons, though. And our second story. Store manager said they wouldn't take my check. This was back around 1996 or 1997. I went into what was at the time a major computer and electronics store. I had my heart set on buying a particular laptop. I'd done my research and they had the exact one I wanted. It was a Saturday and I was looking forward to spending Sunday getting it all ready to take to work on Monday. Our company only provided desktop computers, and having a laptop meant I could take work home with me and not have to remote in as much over dial-up modem and waste time downloading things. I could already envision how I would become the very model of productivity. I picked up the laptop plus laptop bag, Ethernet card, PCM-CIA, and modem card. The total price for everything was around $2,800. This was back when large purchases were still routinely made by check. Stores would validate that checks were good electronically with services like CheckFax, similar to the way credit card transactions are validated through MasterCard, Visa, Amex, etc. Well, the store's modem was down and they could not connect to whatever system they used to validate checks. I had a debit card, but back then there was like a $200 daily limit on how much you could charge on your debit card. I know, the Stone Age, right? I told the store manager that there was a number for my bank you could call. It was conveniently on the back of my debit card, and they would provide verbal authorization over the phone. The salesperson who would get a commission for the sale already had the bank on the line. The store manager flat out refused to accept a check authorization unless it came through their system, which was down. He said he would not take my check and I would have to come back on Monday when the system was working again. No matter how much I and the salesperson tried to reason with him, he was not going to budge. Now, normally this would have steamed me so much that I would have taken my business elsewhere, but I really wanted that laptop. They were the only store in town that carried it, and I didn't want to wait for mail order. Must have new toy now. So if he didn't want to take my check, fine, I'd pay in cash, lots of it. On Monday, I went to my bank and said I wanted to withdraw $2,800 in dollar bills. I thought about asking for quarters, but figured no one would have that many quarters on hand. The teller asked me why I needed so many ones, just out of curiosity. I told her exactly what I was planning to do with them. She was completely on board with it. The branch didn't have that many ones, they had about half. The teller called ahead to the downtown branch, and they said they had the rest. She told them why I needed all the ones, and they got a big kick out of it as well. Even though the tellers had to unbundle all the ones and run them through the counting machine, bank policy, they were more than happy to do so. They filled up 2 medium-sized brown paper bags. They were all nicely bundled in bricks of 100 each. I drove to the store, and in the parking lot removed the bands that held the bricks of cash together and stuffed the now loose bills in their brown paper bags. I then walked in and found the same salesperson from that Saturday and confirmed with him that the same store manager was working that day. I had him pull the same stuff as before, then showed him what was in the 2 brown paper bags I was carrying and told him to call the manager. The manager was none too pleased when I started, carefully so as to not lose any bills, dumping the $1 bills out onto the customer service desk counter. I reminded him that he said my checks were no good, so I brought cash. He threatened not to accept all those ones, but the salesperson immediately jumped in on my behalf. He really wanted that commission, I guess. Besides, I don't think he legally had a choice. It was U.S. currency, good for all debts, public and private. That's literally printed on all U.S. notes, if you've never bothered to take a close look at one. Now, unlike the bank, they did not have a money counting machine. Every available employee, including the store manager and the salesperson, had to get behind the customer service counter and start counting ones. The store manager was pissed. The salesperson was not. He was actually happy about it. Commission, I'm guessing again. The other employees were, shall we say, ranging between annoyed and peeved. It took them quite a while to count it all. I then dropped the precise change on the counter to complete the sale price, 82 cents. As I was leaving with my new toys, I asked the store manager if he was going to give me any more trouble about taking my checks in the future. I didn't wait around for his reply. About a month later, a friend of mine stopped in the same store. He said to one of the salespeople that he was a friend of mine and if he knew about what had happened. The salesperson just happened to be the same salesperson who sold me my laptop. He said that it had actually turned out to be kind of convenient. They had to put all those ones in the safe, and ever since then, they had not had to send anyone to the bank once to pick up dollar bills to make change. Edit. My bank, on their toll-free line, which the salesperson dialed, was willing to verify that the check was good over the phone. He was just too inflexible to accept the bank's own verification that the funds to cover the check were in my account. The same verification he would have gotten electronically through his network if he could connect to it. The toll-free hotline existed exactly for cases like this. I wonder how many other sales the store lost that day because the store manager couldn't be bothered to get verbal authorization from various customers' banks. I'd also like to add that the store manager was a real jerk about not accepting my check. If he had explained that it was corporate policy and he could get in trouble or that the verification system would protect them from fraud or NSF fees or whatever, I would have accepted that. Instead, he just flat out refused to take my check, even with the salesperson on my side, and was rude to both of us, and didn't try to explain any of that. Was I a jerk? Maybe. Was he a jerk? Most definitely. And our last story. Kiss your job goodbye. Was on a local forum and some guy spammed me about some job posting, contrary to openly posted forum rules. I replied to his post asking for a mod deletion. He then DMs me a litany of abuse and self-righteousness. I did engage and showed where he was wrong, but he went off. I let him know that I'd be happy to post his messages to the corporate social media for discussion, and he told me to F off. I thought that was the end of it. I didn't intend to drag him by involving his employer. However, later that night, while I was out, food orders started showing up. We then started to get late-night crank calls. This went on for a few days. It steeled my resolve, and I reached out to his employer via social media and let them know I had an issue with their social media engagement. I then forwarded the DMs to the legit social media manager. Said emails contained this guy telling me to F off and that his boss was watching him respond and he was good at what he was being paid for. The Corp Social then forwarded to HR, who then reached out to me. I sent a few of the DMs to them at their request, and they said they would speak to the guy. HR calls later to let me know he was spoken to and he was disciplined. Cue the ramped-up harassment. More food orders, more crank calls. So I reached out to HR again and provided them the full conversation and said that I think they should distance themselves from this guy. They agreed and he was fired. I've not heard from him since. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.